Jiu-Jitsu versus wrestling. Now, both of these are grappling types of combat sport, but the Jiu-Jitsu side is more submissions, and the wrestling side, is in the name, is to take the opposition or your opponent down. Now, Jiu-Jitsu, you learn cool submissions. That is a very good thing. You can learn how to choke people unconscious. You learn how to snap people's bones. Now, if you got to or into a fight on the street, you would be able to put these into use and put someone unconscious. As well as that, it has a progression ladder, and that means if you like to have some reassurance and you like to have a sense of achievement, that is great, because it will show you when you are doing well. You will get stripes on your belt and you can work up the ladder of belts. It goes from white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and then black belt. And then, as well as that, in the kids, I don't particularly know, but it has yellow belts and other belts as well to help progress the kids and get them to feel a sense of achievement. And a good thing about Jiu-Jitsu, you don't really have to be that physical. You don't have to be that strong. You don't have to be that explosive, and you don't have to be that powerful. You can play your game depending on your physical attributes. If you want to play on bottom, you can play on bottom. If you want to be top, heavy pressure on top, you can do that also. So you can suit Jiu-Jitsu to your physical attributes. And because of that, I think it's a very good one for people that work in an office and don't really have a sporty background. They don't really have a physical background of being in sports like rugby or even just football. But some people are a little bit timid and shy, and if that is you, Jiu-Jitsu, I believe, is definitely one for you, and most likely in the gi. You can do it in the gi or no gi. Me personally, I like no gi, but the gi is definitely better the older you get, as you can be a bit more focused on the technique instead of physical attributes to win or get in good positions in a certain round. Now wrestling. Wrestling, I'm going to say, is a bit more of an alpha combat sport between Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. You obviously start standing up, and it's to take your partner, your opposition, down. And if you think in street terms, most street fights, or all street fights, start from standing, unless you've been sucker punched. And most commonly, where these happen are in a bar. If you've got in a bar fight, most bar fights, it's a little wrestle and a few punches. Normally someone's grabbed someone's shirt and you're in some sort of entanglement and you're just grappling. And that is where wrestling is very good, because it will help with getting a dominant position and making sure you can defend yourself and not get taken down. Because if you get taken down and you don't know what you're doing, you can then get your head punched in. Now Jiu-Jitsu is more of the floor. Wrestling, it is more of the standing up from there. But wrestling, they still have floor grappling, but it's just a little bit of a different style. Now, out of the two, which one would I personally recommend if you have never done anything before? Now, it all depends on your reasoning for doing the sport. I'm going to say Jiu-Jitsu is better if you are a little bit older and you want to get into some sort of combat sport. And by older, maybe you've got bad knees, you've got bad elbows. You can work around it in Jiu-Jitsu. In wrestling, it's a little bit harder. So if you're older, I recommend doing a gi sort of Jiu-Jitsu. By older, 40 plus, maybe 45 plus. I know a purple belt from Gripper's Jiu-Jitsu that started, I believe, when he was 58, 59. He's 65 now, and he's now a purple belt. I've literally just seen the post, and I've rolled with him before, and that just proves that age doesn't mean anything. So if you're a little bit older, I recommend the Jiu-Jitsu. If you are young, what is it, young sprung and full of cum, do your wrestling. That is definitely the one I would pick if you are into sport. I'm not going to say you are physical, but if you're into sport, wrestling is definitely the one you want to do, because that is a lot more physically demanding. It's going to take a lot more effort, a lot more energy in order to get hard wrestling rounds out. I believe wrestling is the hardest fitness and physical toll on the body out of all combat sports. even Muay Thai, K1, boxing. Physically demanding, wrestling is the hardest one. And that's why I think it is a great one to go into to start doing that. My style of fighting is wrestling with submissions. It's not Jiu Jitsu with submissions, because I play on top and heavy on top. Jiu Jitsu, you can get away with being on bottom. So my style of fighting is wrestling with submissions added, and that is why I personally would recommend wrestling over Jiu Jitsu, especially if you're doing it for MMA. If you're just doing it for a hobby, it all depends, like I said, on the physical attributes and what tickles your fancy a little bit more. If you want to learn cool submissions, you want to have a progression ladder, and you're not really that physical, Jiu-Jitsu is probably the one for you. If you want to be physical, you've probably played rugby before as a younger kid and through up your teenage life, I definitely recommend wrestling, especially if you're going to go with your mates as well. That's how we do things around here, because we're built different. I'll see you in the next one. Bish, bash, bosh, pow!